Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Raidred here with another Godforge video, and today we are looking at the Egyptian Dogfather himself, Anubis. Simon sort of released a video on which god do you think was more powerful, and in that video he leaked, or I say leaked, showed their skills, which I am super excited to get into because, you know, this guy is definitely one of my favourite looking characters, or is my favourite looking character so far. I love the visual animations that they've done, especially with the basic attacking on the scythe. It looks super cool, and I'm buzzing to sort of talk about him. So without further ado, let's take a quick peek. So, starting with his passive then. His passive says he gains 20% turn meter whenever any unit dies. Now, turn meter, we all know what that is. That's just going to be when you're going to take your turn. Okay. Very similar to sort of Raid, Dragonair. They call it, it's just like Spell Haste or Skill Haste in Dragonair. But this is super cool. This leads me to believe that Anubis is going to be pretty good in PvE content, you know, similar to with your perhaps your XP farming dungeon, whether, you know, however that comes to be. Yeah, that to me looks like that's where he's going to shine, or maybe something similar to Spider in Raid. You know, we kill all the spiders, gain a load of turn meter to get to go again. So cool passive, and obviously it doesn't specify whether it's enemy or yours as well. So again, he screams out to me that he's going to be, you say, your campaign or your XP farmer. Take 3 food with him, they'll die. He'll go again. He'll go again. So, yeah, really do like this passive. It's a pretty cool passive. So now let's go take a look at the other 3 abilities. So his A1, or his basic attack, then is called Soul Guide, and he attacks an enemy for 250% attack and 15% max HP. If an enemy dies, he has a 35% chance to place a fear for 1 turn on all other enemies. So this sort of leads into what I was just sort of perhaps talking about, if you will, in that it could be a great campaign farmer. He's going to kill you know, the enemy, whoever that is, and CC the others. So it's going to make it easier for him to keep those abilities rolling and not die himself. Like, we've all played 9-3 Nightmare on Raid the first time, especially when you didn't have all the best gear or lifesteal gear. Sometimes you die, you'd have to bring in someone else. So to me, this sort of perhaps helps alleviate that. Now, what does fear do? We don't know yet. This could be, you know, 50% chance to skip your turn. It could be just completely miss your turn at all. You know, who knows? But it's obviously some sort of control mechanic that's just going to make life a little bit easier for you. Now, the fact that the abilities scale on attack and max HP is interesting. So we do know that Anubis is a brawler, so he is sort of going to be getting up close and personal with you with his scythe. So you're going to want to build him somewhat tanky, and the fact that, you know, he's going to scale from that HP is very nice. He also has the HP aura that you can see down there as well, which is going to, you know, potentially increase his damage. However, in games that I have played, people who scale off max HP, like the numbers tend to be a little bit lower. Like, if you've got 500 attack, 250% of that is going to be what, like 1250. But you could have 1,000 HP and it tends to. I guess what I'm saying is, they tend to lower sort of that's the word I'm looking for, damage multipliers. They tend to lower the damage multipliers when you scale off max HP. Just because you could make him really tanky, really strong, and deal a load of damage as well. So, makes me a little bit sad in a way, because I really wanted him to be a cool damage dealer, and he probably is still going to be. But yeah, the max HP makes me think probably not going to be the strongest one out there, but that's okay, my love for him hasn't changed with this. So let's go take a look at the second ability. So the second ability, here it is. There you go. That sort of laser palm across the enemies there. Super, super cool ability. Visually looks wicked. I think we can both agree on that. I say both. There's more than one of you watching, I'm certain. We can all agree on that. So that ability is called Embalming Blast. He attacks all enemies based off of 200% attack and 20% of his max HP. So that in itself is different than the basic attack. We're scaling lower off attack and more off HP. So sort of insinuates you can build him potentially two different ways, whether it might be sort of like a more attack focused and a more HP focused build. He also has a 75% chance to place Corrupt, and I'm certain it's initiative down 2 for 2 turns. Now, again, we don't know what Corrupt does, we don't know what Initiative does. Now, in the video that a lot of us have seen, we see the Corrupt get placed on the Brunhild. Now, initially I thought it might be some sort of like HP burn sort of mechanic, not poison, because Hercules has that, but maybe like the next step up from that. But the Brunhild doesn't actually take any damage when she takes her turn with Corrupt on. So now that corruption might be like a silence effect. Can't use your abilities. And I say that now because when you now we can actually see what's on the screen here. The Corrupt is in purple now, compared to the Initiative down, which is a red writing. So red would suggest to me that it is a debuff, and purple, from what we've seen so far, is a control mechanic there. Now, that could just be coincidence. I don't know that. I don't have any sort of intel. But the fact it's in purple makes me think perhaps it is a control ability, perhaps like a silence, something like that. But it's still cool to sort of look at and sort of go through all of these. Initiative down, I thought was like a decreased speed mechanic, but we have a speed up buff, so not entirely sure what that is, whether you're going to drop it down in your turn order, one turn, something like that. But yeah, super, super cool ability again, just visually. And Anubis is certainly, from what I see, going to be perhaps not the strongest damage dealer, but going to be a good sort of all-around kit, if you will, to bring to your team. So now let's go take a look at the ultimate. So I was just rewatching it actually, and I'll press play here so you guys can see it. So he does his ultimate, and then he does his Embalming Blast, and he just put Corruption down, right? Now, and this is where I'm thinking about this whole what is corruption. Like, to me, it shows me that, Brunhild, she has a full ability bar. She can perhaps use her ultimate, but she doesn't. She uses a basic attack here. So I'm pretty certain in the knowledge that the corruption is some sort of silence effect. I'm ready to eat those words, by the way, but that's what I think it is. I'm pretty certain that that's corruption is a silence. There you go. So again, just a quick catch up on the gameplay. This is the ultimate ability, where he places that sort of green sort of whirling, sort of unholy tornado on everyone. And we can tell that that's the ultimate because, we can see just from the sort of icon just here that is his ultimate ability, which we will pair with the actual character screen. So then back to the character screen here, as you can see, we see the same icon just here, and his ultimate is called Weigh the Scales, and that's pretty cool. Sort of thematical just in the name. In Egyptian mythology, whether you went to sort of their equivalent of heaven or hell, you were judged on a set of scales. Now, if I remember correctly, you had to put your sort of like your soul on one side of the scales, and then like a feather or something pure on the other. And if you were pure of heart, they would balance out, and you could sort of go up. And if your soul weighed down, then you would go see the Dogfather, as I'm calling him, Anubis, down in the underworld equivalent. So love the name. So looking at the ability itself, as you could probably read, attacks all enemies. Again, a lower attack percentage and a sort of lower max HP. So, we've got the attack of the second ability and the max HP of the basic attack here. So certainly scaling it down a little bit for this. And he has a 35% chance to press Drain for 2 turns. Drain is going to be some sort of lifesteal, some sort of leech. So, so when you then hit the enemy again, you'll take some HP back. Repeat the stack on enemies with less than 50% divinity. Now, divinity is an interesting one. I'll come into that again in a second. But the last little bit says he gains 200 divinity whenever an enemy dies, and he gains 300 divinity if they were killed by Soul Guide. Now, Soul Guide is his basic attack here. Now, this sort of all links back to that passive as well. So, firstly, he gets to cast his ultimate twice if they have less than 50% divinity. Now, divinity, I think, is sort of your ultimate gauge, ultimate ability gauge, if you will. So, potentially a couple ways to build him here. You can build him really tanky, but slow. So then the enemy team will go before you. So when you come to use Weigh the Scales, you're going to hit twice. Which is really cool. And that's assuming divinity is recharge bar. Or you try and build him ridiculously fast for the same reason. But I think it's possibly going to be hard to do that. At least without some sort of drain divinity gauge or an ability like that, which will probably come. We just haven't seen it. So I'm leaning towards building him sort of slow, hard-hitting menace. He gains 200 divinity whenever an enemy dies, and that leads nicely into his passive, which was he gains 20% turn meter whenever any unit dies. Now, sort of turn meter and divinity, I don't know how they're going to work. Now, either the turn meter one needs to say gain divinity when they die, or this says turn meter, or they're two completely different things. And if they are different things, then that adds another level of sort of complexity to character builds, which I think is quite cool. It means, you could be going really, really fast if you've got a big turn meter, but if you've got slow divinity gauge, you'll just be doing your basic attacks all the time rather than your ultimate. So something else that we can sort of build in here. But I love how it all pairs together. If you're getting divinity whenever an enemy dies and turn meter, again, it's just going to be sort of wicked sort of dungeons like a spider dungeon or a campaign farm, because if you're going to get a load of kills with your ultimate, you're going to be able to cast your ultimate again and get your turn meter back as well. So really cool sort of concept here for Anubis. I can't wait for sort of perhaps the time that we're all allowed in open beta to get in there and have a play, assuming I pull him from the scroll or whatever it's going to be to summon these characters here. But, you know, super exciting time. That is Anubis for us today. Short video, but my closing thoughts, I'm pretty sure I've already you've probably got the gist. I say definitely my favourite character by far so far. He is going to be not a neutral affinity. He's this sort of green, sort of viper sort of affinity. So he's going to be weak to something, sadly. But you know, love. There's no words really to describe other than the fact that I just love him. The basic attacks look awesome. He's got this cool sort of purple hue as he's swinging through. Perhaps I'll show one more video before we go of that from the showcase that we saw. But it's just so cool, so nice to look at. I love what the guys are doing so far, even though it's not the finished project. And it's just exciting seeing all these showcasing coming out. So what we'll do, I'll pull that up now with his size. Just that's just, it's so good. It's so cool. Just, you know, if I had one criticism, it would be that it's not an AoE, but we can't have everything, can we? I suppose just, you know, running up, bang, bang, really, really cool. And there we are. So that is it. That is our little sort of breakdown into Anubis. I am going to do one for Aphrodite as well, who we also saw. Arthur, I'm undecided, mainly because if you've watched the video, you've seen all of the sort of visual animations aren't quite done yet, and so I think it's an unfair sort of representation, if you will, at the moment. So Arthur, maybe we'll leave Arthur for one moment. But thank you for watching here today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my opinion on what is the best character in Godforge at the moment, and quite possibly might be just in general, in my opinion. So look after yourselves, take it easy, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I will see you in another one soon. Cheers.